grab your drink and sit down. Listen to the podcast of the strange, the old, the pagan, and the Christian overcoming evil. This is the Grizzly Files podcast.
And here we go. Welcome to the Grizzly Files. How's it going, everybody? Wife's mouth is full, or she'd say hi. Do we wait for her to say hi? Oh, yes, we should embarrass her. You should have no idea how embarrassed she is.
I had a cookie in my mouth.
Stuff your mouth full of cookies, woman.
And I was having trouble chewing because I put the other side of my mouth in my sleep.
And that's why she's drinking wine that'll burn her mouth out.
It will numb it.
What wine is this, wife?
Castle Rock.
Castle Rock.
Winery. Well, Pinot Noir.
A Pinot Noir, Castle Rock.
My mouth hurts. Appalachian, Mendocino County.
We were curious about Appalachian wines, so we gave one a whirl. This one's actually not that bad. Kind of enjoy it. We did it for communion.
Our vineyards are planted in early 1860s. In this fertile and rugged landscape, the cool springs, warm summers, crisp falls, and wet winters make ideal growing conditions for New York grapes. The medium-bodied wine offers delicate aromas of blackberry, caramel, and cedar, full of mid-palate.
I gotta push back. I didn't smell no caramel. I didn't taste no caramel.
While ripe strawberries leading into a long, refined finish. Pair with versatile wine, wood, fired pizza, salmon, or charcuterie board. Ooh.
This isn't a wine stream, wife. This is the Grizzly Files. Wine is only a side part. Can't believe I let you read the whole thing. And again, I didn't smell no blackberry. I didn't smell no caramel.
I just smelled turpentine.
Turpentine. Yes, that's right. Get high on that wine, wife.
Wood.
You know that. So anyway, folks, welcome. Good times as always. Got my wife enough wine. She's willing to talk about creepy things again. And today is a day of fun times. We're talking about supernatural. We're talking about Superstition Mountains in Arizona, just by Phoenix. And this is going to be a broader topic. And we'll probably return to yes, a very broad topic. Wife has had too much wine already. But I'll definitely be returning to this topic with more specific stories and ideas and whatnot. But because this place is so crazy, I wanted to give a general overview if you've never heard about it. So the Superstition Mountains...
It's in the desert.
No! Is by Phoenix, obviously. But it is a spiritual center for multiple Native American tribes, including the Apache. Which, if you know what the Apache were like, the only worst, annoying, disgusting people were the Comanche. Yes, I will use that. The Apaches were violent, torturous bastards to each other and to everything else. And the only ones who were worse than them were the Comanche. And yes, the Comanche and the Apache hated each other, so,
Were they like
fun
cousins or something?
Fun bedfellows. More like often torturing each other's wives kind of thing.
Ooh.
Yes, it's pretty nasty. Yeah, not fun. Another tribe, which actually wasn't, because they were more agriculturally based and in the desert at that, which meant they were pretty darn good at it.
Do you know Yuma, Arizona? They call it the winter cabbage of
the winter cabbage? My cabbages?
Of the world.
Do you mean the winter capital for cabbage?
Of the world.
You just said winter cabbage of the world.
Yeah, winter cabbage of the world, because that's what they...
It would be the capital of winter cabbage or something. It is literally a cabbage, is what you said, wife.
That's what it said.
It's cabbage of the
world. What I read.
It's better than being the armpit of the world, I guess. Be its cabbage. My cabbages! You just wanted me to say that. Make me old. People are going to listen to this in the Zoomer generation and go, what the heck is this cabbage line all about? If you haven't watched it, then the Avatar, The Last Airbender. Not the movie, the show.
Let me tell you something, too.
My cabbages?
In Poltava,
They have
where I'm from, yes.
They have a little Asian man with cabbages getting crushed constantly.
No, they have a restaurant all devoted to cabbage.
So there's lots of cabbage to smash.
Kapusta.
Mama Caboose. So,
Kapusta.
I should actually probably get more into the topic before
I
everyone tunes out.
I just couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
They already sat there listening to your long giant tribe and like propaganda.
The superstitious cabbage. Superstitious cabbage. Okay.
I swear, wine, like the writers for those wine labels are like the guys who write the descriptions of like kids' books. And you will go for the vast adventures of Tick-Tock, Rick, Rock. If you've ever heard that comedian, they didn't look the book's 5 lines. Wine labelers are the same way. And you'll smell caramel and blackberries in the winter rugged landscape.
I just smell wood and turpentine.
Good times. So.
In a class. Sorry.
What I was trying to get to was the Pima, which is a funny name.
Pima?
Pima. The Pima, yes, is another tribe strongly associated with the Superstition Mountains, though they moved away from the area quite a while ago. They were more agriculturally based, so they weren't all about raiding like the Apache were.
They're all about raking.
Yes. Careful how you say that. There were several things close there. The Pima probably have the more ancient stories about the place, since the Apache, again being more nomadic and raidy, came in far later, and of course fought over the mountains. And nearby, you'll know places like where the Navajo were. You got New Mexico.
Not my hoe.
Not your hoe. Yes. My gosh. This area is a hot spot for lots of spiritual nonsense. I mean, we're going, of course, lots of ghosts. There's a ton of insane air accidents, like airplanes going down, mostly military aircraft that are doing...
It was a military base, right? The air base?
I don't know if there's an air base, but all these training missions, I say in quotations, where these craft are all going down during training missions. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure many training missions are dangerous, but it's kind of weird that so many fatalities happen. Like, you would think, right, that you would change...
An invisible wall they crash into?
What?
An invisible wall?
I don't know what to do. Okay, we're setting the stage. Like, you remember how expensive these aircraft are? Like,
yeah.
Some of them cost more than a country to make.
Dude, once you told me about that one missile that cost like for one to be shot off, I'm like, oh, they got too much.
You're right. So even you would change the location if you're losing lots of aircraft. Like, it's one thing to try to prepare pilots for difficult settings. How many are they
waiting for them to die before they say, oh, let's go somewhere else?
Well, it's more than that, too. If you're just going from the sheer financial motivation, you would change the training location because you need people to get better before they take more complex tasks on. And if you're losing a bunch of people in training, death-wise and airplane-wise, craft-wise, you're ruining the point of training.
Are they all women flying now?
This goes way back. Like
before the woman took over. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. Though I'm sure they're crashing still. There's a long history of unsolved beheadings all throughout the supernatural mountains. And we're talking going all the way back to when the first miners were looking for gold up there, all the way to the modern day. Just heads. Found, usually like skulls or something, just found, and no body. I mean, body because there's a head, but no body with the head, just a headless stuff, which is interesting. There are other locations with spiritual matters involved. I believe it's called something like Headless Valley. That's more, where is that? It's like more New England kind of area of the United States. Now, the funny thing about this is, we have lots of more modern examples, a number of more modern examples of these skulls and heads and disappeared. See, this is why I'm also going to come back to this subject with specific stories, like maybe hikers have gone missing, that kind of thing.
Almost like a 401 thing.
Missing from, yeah. And the funny thing also, like, just to keep establishing the strangeness of it, the gold found here is pursued by NASA, which, if you know anything about NASA, they literally have like a snake tongue in their little logo thing. And whatever you feel about other things they've done, moon landings and all that, they did for sure have Nazis who were hired on. There is also strong rumors about gargoyles and demonic activity around NASA when they were first starting out. So we were establishing creepy high-end nuttiness going on this mountaintop, on these mountains. There's also, fascinatingly enough, history of Aztecs in the area committing human sacrifice. Yep. They came, they mined for gold, and they did sacrifices on the mountain. Funny enough.
Aztecs are always looking for gold.
Gold and murder. Makes you also wonder, there's something more spiritually minded that they want the gold for. But hey, I'm only here to cause conspiracy and concern. Shh, cat. I'm talking crazy over here.
Really any signs of like giants?
Yes,
Like
there's actually lots of stories of giants. I don't know about satyrs. Lizard people. Rumors about probably.
Because I read something about Wendigo around those areas, like not on the mountain.
Well, and again, I've brought up Wendigo before. It's hard to know when you say that what you mean. Are we talking about something that's more rake-like in appearance? Are we talking about the
cannibalistic? Yeah, well, that's right.
Well, I mean, usually they eat humans, whatever they are. Yes, it's also funny when I do that too. Like, is it cannibalism if they're not technically human? Though I'm sure they probably eat each other too. Cat, stop attacking the dishes. Sorry. But yeah, so yeah. Where am I? Wife has actually done some...
I've done a few research. Like there was like the Arizona Bigfoot. The Mongol whatever.
Mongol monster?
Whatever.
Mongol
and then there's of course a chupacabra that's like the lizard or reptilian.
Well, again, in this parts, it's more of a dog-like thing.
And then there's a dog, like a dog or wolf thing out there. There's also
what? Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly.
Lots of high strangeness in Arizona in general.
And including the Wendigo. And that's why I was wondering, because you mentioned...
Very possible. It's one of those things, too, when we're dealing with spiritual entities and Native American tribes. Again, mostly... there's a lot of mystery around it. The original stories, again, as my wife brought up, tied to giants. You can go to the original Wendigo thing that we have.
That's where I think about the giant part.
Yeah.
And I think about other things, and I'm like, what?
Looks back or what? No, yeah. It's good. We're establishing... I'm setting things up here, so keep up with us, boys and girls. This is something that you can use as a badge and like a stamp that you can look at other areas to understand why there might be high strangeness there.
Like around the Grand Canyon, there's those, whispering, not gnomes, but orcs or not orcs.
Whispering orcs? That'd be fun.
Whispering something with us.
Does Krishnak whisper into the dark, sweet nothings?
I don't like in one of the canals, there's like a mermaid. Supposedly.
Yes, I will.
All this weird stuff. I know. I'm shotgun blasting all this.
You're trying to
I'm trying to figure out...
ruin future episodes for people. Mermaids in Arizona? Now I can't surprise them with a really catchy title. But so people know on that, when you're talking
Yeah.
about mermaids in real mythologies and whatnot, it's not Ariel. It tends to be more of a more cannibal, not cannibal. As I point out, if they're not technically human, eating a human doesn't make them cannibalistic. Partially cannibalistic?
I have no idea. I mean,
Then again, I don't know. Maybe they eat each other too. How would I know?
there's so much superstition going on then about all the Superstition
wife's like, bring it back to the home. I will. Okay. So, I don't know about the other stuff we looked up. There's lots of little people. That was a good laugh. There's lots of little people stories, but we're not talking like, oh, I got my leprechaun full of gold in my pot under the rainbow. No, we're talking like angry. What was this?
Tinkerbells.
No.
No.
More like, what was those horror movies I never watched but everyone loves for some reason? The little midget monsters that you put water on them and they turn into crazed gremlins. Gremlins, literally. Right? More like that. I'm trying to remember if it was the Apache who fought alongside them or claimed that they fought alongside them. Yes, if I remember correctly, that's supposed to be the story, that the Apache fought alongside them, and the Navajo were fighting against them, and stuff like that.
I wonder why things got messy.
Yes. Whether or not that's all true,
Yeah.
we'll roll around. I gotta do more research on those stories. Those will be episodes in and of themselves, if there's more truth to the one time I heard that one. But there's a lot of story about very angry gremlin-like monster things in the mountains and whatnot. There are some stories about people at first thinking they're kids and then finding out that they're definitely not kids and that kind of weird stuff going down. Again, more violent, more rip your face off, not here, don't find my pot of gold type of things. Which, if you know,
a place where there was gold found during the gold rush.
Yeah. And again, we have the whole gold connection there. I guess we shouldn't be surprised that there's weird, small, angry cannibals monster things. Fun times, good times, and of course there is the usual talk about caves and large cave systems and everything going around.
And they're whispering whatever it is in the caves.
I think those are called Tommyknockers. That's the British term for them. They knock, they tom, they whistle. Oh, we can get into Tommyknockers another day, though.
Are they knocking who up?
It's a minor story, my love. But basically, Tommyknockers either they're trying to warn you. The story either goes they're trying to warn you that there's about to be a mine collapse, or they're trying to collapse the mine on you, depending on the story. Yeah, fun stuff there. But that's, again, there's tons of Tommyknocker stories that we won't get too distracted by because we got a lot to cover here. Now,
drink every time he creeps you out.
I'm bringing all
this
that's
the whole string
to your attention, right? Because I want to establish a concept from biblical perspectives for something for you guys to think about with high places and whatnot. So, in the Bible, you might have been reading. There's lots of prophecies like this in the Bible that'll confuse you. God will say, "Talk to the mountains." He'll say something like, "I'm jealous for those mountains," or "I'm going to take those mountains or those high places." Or you'll hear things like Asherish poles and whatnot. And demonic places are always high on mountaintops, the high places. All the times the kings of Israel would come back to the ones that would come back to God, they would often not be like, maybe they'd cut down all the Asherish poles, but they wouldn't be willing to.
What are those poles?
It's like totem poles, if I understand correctly. I got to make sure I'm not lying on that one. Wife brought up a question I wasn't expecting. Thanks, wife.
Sorry.
Basically, it's like a little worship thingamabob, usually involving sex, if I remember correctly.
Is that where pole dancing started?
That's a funny question. I don't know. Again, I'd have to do more research, but Asherish, if I remember correctly, was a fertility deity.
That was a stripper name?
Ash tree.
Dancing on a pole.
Ash trees on the Superstition
Original
Mountains.
pole dancing.
Okay, if you see a pole on top of the Superstitions, don't watch the stripper. It's a trap. It's gonna cut your head off. Probably eat your testicles.
I knew those stiletto heels were not natural.
Exactly. So, or the high places, they might cut one thing down and not destroy the high places for another. All throughout Mesopotamian history.
You just made me think of cut one thing I'd never cut.
Wow. Dick jokes. I suppose I walked into that one. To be fair, the ancients were obsessed with dicks. Just dicks everywhere. You know what those obelisks are? Those are just Osiris dicks. They just represent Osiris's dick, which is funny, yes, because the Washington Monument, you might notice, is essentially Osiris dicks.
Another representation of Egyptian stuff.
You mean Egyptian dicks? Yeah.
I mean, there's so many Egyptian stuff like
in
Arizona.
That is another episode about rumors that the Smithsonian covered up Egyptian artifacts and cities and stuff. Ooh. But yes, again, if we could talk about everything going on in Arizona, we'd be here all day.
Oh man, that's why
those have newspaper
the mountains.
Mm-hmm. But they don't know what's big deal about that. We haven't gotten there yet.
I know.
So.
Not that big deal.
All throughout mythologies, and especially Mesopotamian cultures, there's always been a concept that gods reside on the mountaintops. Mount Olympus, if you're a Western person, right? Where they're up on the mountaintop. You have, I forget which mountains it is for the various Canaan groups. There's also Mount Horeb, where I forget if this is in the Bible, more apocryphal texts, but basically, I believe it's apocryphal. Apocryphal, i.e. around the Bible, but not considered canonic, some of it more reliable than others. The story goes that the original Watchers, so rebellious angels, first touched down on Horeb to rebel against God. So, mountains, high places, is where the gods choose to reside. Future Grizzly here. Sorry, I forgot to mention this, but I want to complete this thought by saying that the Bible strongly implies, if not outright says, that other religions are basically run by demons and watcher entities, fallen angels. The main verse to point to in this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 19 through 20, where Paul clearly states that an offering offered to idols is communing with demons. And we have other verses, like stories like in Ezekiel with the watcher entity of Persia and all the rest, and two strong implications that watchers are put over nations and thus are worshipped instead of worshiping God, and boom, this is why gods of the top of the mountains are often referencing fallen angels, watchers, and demons. At least that's the hypothesis, and thus why it's so bad, dangerous here on the supernatural mountains. Okay, back to our programming. Now, interestingly enough, we have the same concept here with not just one, but multiple Indian tribes, Native American tribes, if you want to call them that, with Superstition Mountains. And one of them, the Pima, saying it got so crazy they decided to pick up and move. Not the white man, not the Apache. No. The weird midget cannibals and crap scared them away, basically. Fun stuff. And they claim in some of their stories to go all the way back to like flood scenarios. So I've heard multiple stories on this. I don't know which one to roll with. There's a book I'm trying to read a little bit when I have time here that describes some of the old Pima stories with the mountain. That one claims are really interesting. They have this weird tri-deity thing going down, and they all know the flood's coming. First of all, one of them's made a son for himself who's mating with all of the women across the world. like a crazy little pervy alpha boy, and
Oh my.
a little rabbit on steroids. But again, what's this? We have a tie-in to that, into the Bible, where the Watchers come and they mixed with the daughters of man, and they produce giants and other monsters and stuff, right? So we have that connection with the Bible right off the bat. And now we have a flood situation, and all of these Watcher entities, these three entities that are the gods or whatever, according to their mythos, are all warned that they know the flood's coming, and each one picks a different way to escape. And one of them, funny enough, makes a boat. Makes a funky boat out of certain wood to survive. Yes, it brings animals and a certain somebody aboard. And then, here's the really interesting one, because I've mentioned this, I think, in other episodes. The other one creates a hole into the earth and brings a bunch of people with him down into it, and then plugs it up and protects themselves from the flood with people underground. Now, this is a big deal because there's lots of rumors and theories all throughout mythos. Like, if you've ever wondered why the giants came back after the flood, because the flood was to kill off the giants in the Bible, right? So why are there more giants afterwards? Well, there's a few reasons. Yeah, we'll get into that. There's a few reasons. One is that more angel watcher deities actually fell from grace afterwards and made more. Another one is a couple stories. One story is King in the Book of Giants or something. King Og claims to have survived by riding onto the Noah's Ark and eating birds to survive. Just who knows? I mean, he's a lion freak, so who knows? Who knows if that book is even written by him, right? But another throughout mythologies, especially with certain native tribes, we've brought this up with our ant people one. Remember this?
And ants have tunnels.
Right, they survived underground and then came back up after the flood. And we have another story here from another Native American tribe claiming that they went underground to avoid the flood and then came back up. This is also interesting when you realize that all of our lovely overlords are creating underground bunkers and constantly making movies about how the world's going to be consumed in fire. It's like they think Revelations is actually going to happen, but they think, like the flood, they're going to outlive it in Hades underneath our feet. A funny concept. But then who knows? The whole inner earth theory goes pretty deep. Pun intended. But trying to bring it all around. The other version of this story, well, no, we're still on the same version. I forget what the third one did. The third one got feathers from. It was really, native tribe cracking me up with some of their stories. Like he gathered feathers for himself and then made a nest, and I guess is something like the firmament, and then he got so comfortable he never came down. It was funny.
Was he named Mr. Eaglehead?
Mr. Eaglehead. No, I think he was. I forget. One was took on the representation of a coyote. Another one representation of. Gosh, I don't remember. It wasn't important for my purposes. Anyway, well, in that story, in the book, it talked about... Okay, so in this book, by the way, got these stories from verbal traditions in the 1940s from Pima Indians who were still out there in the desert. It was actually really fascinating how it all came to be. Like, the guy found a 100%... pure native guy who had been trained in college, in a college of the day, and he just found him in a store he was buying from, and they got talking, met each other, and he followed him to his family deep in the desert. And then he just interviewed a bunch of people and got a lot of their stories written down. So,
dang,
yeah, I needed. This is kicking myself. I might have to add in an editor. I'll try to put it in the description, the name of the book that I found online. Oh, wife's getting more wine. It tattles on her right next to the mic. I am recording, right? I
Oh,
better
gosh,
be
it's
recording.
13.5% alcohol.
Oh, excellent.
Uh-oh. I know what that means.
Nothing I could talk about right now. Anyway, so... Oh, Donna. Alright, we're going to try and keep going. Everyone, so if you hear sniffles, I promise it's not me. It's actually my little baby crying in the corner here. Poor little lady needed her mama. Oh, it's like, Dad, why don't you have a studio yet? Well, because I'm poor. Cheap. And if I did, I wouldn't have heard you cry. Sweet little lady. Anyway, so, the part of the story that becomes important is, besides the other stuff with the Hopi Ant people and whatnot, is the Pima said that a group of people went up onto the Superstition Mountains in an attempt to escape the rising floodwaters. Now, in this story, once it became clear that they were going to die, their magic shaman guy turned them all into stone. Interesting. This becomes important because there's these stone rock faces that look remarkably like people on top of the Superstition Mountains.
Oh, wow.
So, who knows if the Pima made a story to explain why these statue-like
things there
were there, or if this is something that passed down. Because I would assume that if this story version is true, that it was more they found these stone figures and made a story for them, because obviously no one survived in their story. Yeah, so how would they know it happened that way, right? The other version I heard, this one I'm not it didn't come from a book. It's funny, it came from another, a white dude talking to these Pimas. It's not like I have access to the Pimas yet. I don't know, maybe I'll find one day. This version of it says that a bunch of people and giants came up to the top of the Superstition Mountains to try to escape the waters, and a light came from heaven and turned all the giants into stone and turned the natives that were up there skin brown, and then some of them were able to survive. I'd love to hear that version as well. Both versions have very interesting tells, as you can see. Now, we could also say that there's different versions of the story because you have different survivors sharing their oral histories, right? Let's say the ones who went down into the center of the earth have that story about the three deities doing random crap, right? Because they went down there, and then that oral history mixed with the oral history from the ones who survived on the mountain. Now, that said, the Bible made it pretty clear that all of the land would be covered, so I don't know. But, as we're establishing here, because of all the high strangeness, here, I would like to say that the Superstition Mountains are a Mount Olympus for the Native Americans. A Mount Horeb, if you will, a Mount Sinai for various native tribes. And I would argue that some demonic watcher-type entities have it as a power base, even to this day. Hence all the strangeness, all the weirdness, the aircraft going down around it, all the death of hikers and all this other crap. Because you gotta understand with these entities, they're rarely friendly to humans, and they're usually involved with witchcraft and all this other stuff. Lady. Now, you may think it's a bit of a stretch, but if you're going through the Bible and you're any way a Christian, you can't ignore these cosmic mountain situations. God picks mountains himself and calls them his holy mountains.
And he literally tells Moses, be with me on the mountain.
Yep. God always comes down onto a mountain, right? It's this... When these watcher entities and rebellious angels and all the rest choose mountains, what they're doing is an inversion of God's holy mountain, of God's holy garden back in the day, right? They're trying to create their own version of their own little kingdom and creating a power structure, a territory, a physical land that they can have power over.
Do you think the Garden of Eden
Hmm.
was on a mountain.
There is a lot of, I don't know if there's anything solid in the Bible to suggest it. I think it just calls it a garden, but there is lots of um, ideas around the concept that it was on a mountain. Or, I've also heard the idea that it was underground, which is also fascinating. But yeah, there is the
By
concept.
a mountain or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. In a mountain.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
What would be the version of the Garden of Eden if it's
In Earth. But in this case, the inversion is they're trying to usurp God's authority on their own holy mountain. Or unholy in this case.
Yeah.
Most of the time with their witchcraft and other crap that they do, they have to do some pretty nasty stuff. Hence, hence weird beheadings, and all this talk about, like I brought up in that Pima story, about the Watcher type entity mixing his spawn all amongst them, explains why you have things like these creepy gremlin demon little people, and then stories of lizard people, stories of giants, and all this other stuff, right? They proliferate where these Watchers do nasty things. And there you go. It's fascinating also that you have so many different groups, varied groups, from the Apache to the Aztec to the Pima, all congregating around the Superstition Mountains. And interestingly enough, in these tribes, they generally called it something more like Thunder Mountain, as in the Thunderbird, which...
that airplane?
Which is always on top of the totem, right? The power spirit of various native tribes, if you will. And the funny thing is, it got the Superstition Mountain name from the white people who came in later and started to share stories and crazy crap that they ran into themselves.
Oh, wow. And
a reporter was there for a completely different reason. And when he was there, he just started hearing all this crazy stuff. Lizard people, beheadings, crazy crap going down in the mountains. And someone said, when he brought it up, that, there's a lot of superstitions out here. And boom, he included it into his article. And that's where we get the name Superstition Mountains. And and thus a place of high strangeness that we could almost count as the Apache / Pima / not so much Aztec, because their gods would probably be based on a different mountain, but they obviously came here. Mount Olympus, if you will. Mm-hmm. They're anti-Mount Sinai. Their power structure. And it's fascinating. There's so many weird things about this mountain and the gold there and whatnot. For example, if you look it up, probably the first story you'll find is the story about the Lost Dutchman's mine, which is a Dutch dude goes in, gets hired by a family to help mine, and then they find this huge gold reserve, this massive gold thing that drives them a little nuts, and he kills them for their gold find, and then lives off the gold for a while.
That sounds something.
And then it's even rumored that on his deathbed he claimed that he killed his own nephew, who would come to help him mine the gold because he didn't trust anybody else at the location. And then he got into his head that the paranoid or whatever, or maybe even demonic voices told him that he was going to steal the gold, and he killed him. I forget exactly how he died. He did die of pneumonia, and on his deathbed supposedly shared the whole story. And so there's a lot of people always going and trying to look for the Lost Dutchman's mine. And a lot of those guys end up, well, not a lot, a number of them end up quite dead, and a lot of them end up dead in very strange ways. There's claims that if you go up there looking for gold, you have a lot more spiritual and other activity coming after you. Fascinating thought.
Almost like a curse.
And again, you have all the Aztec human sacrifice up there for the gold, almost like they were sacrificing before they took the gold with them, right?
Sacrificing
to the deity at the top of the mountain. right? The power spirit or whatever that's hanging out there. Interestingly enough, there's also a species of snake, one of the most poisonous rattlers out there, on the top of...
snake?
I forget. It's like something green something.
Okay.
It's an actual snake.
Right, okay.
Okay, like a species. But it's only found in like northern Mexico and then on the Superstition Mountains. Not in the rest of Arizona.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and you have that Aztec tie. And you gotta remember, the Aztec gods especially are very snake orientated.
Right.
Especially their war gods. The main deity, I forget its name, it's a snake. It's like lots of snake.
Deceit, lies, all that paranoia.
Yeah. And a lot of that snake imagery. And you have a very specific poisonous snake here, there, and then in northern Mexico with the Aztecs. So, I won't tell you I know exactly what's going on, but I can tell you whatever is at the top of the mountain isn't something you should trust. And it
shit, really?
Yeah, it could probably give you a lot of power for, I don't know, if you did a lot of nasty things. And I don't think you should. And you would be the enemy of every Christian.
Isn't it funny how when we got deceived by a snake in the Garden of Eden just because of the fruit of knowledge and good and evil?
Yep. Your daughter just smiled at me like you're ridiculous. You have no idea how cute she is.
My goodness, though, right?
Yep. That's just a taste, an overview, a slice of everything that's...
What do you think about the term fool's gold?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Or, I think it's like called... I might be just pulling from... I know in...
You just remember the thing that we had? That was the cursed thing? And it was gold?
was
and there was a dragon, you know?
Yeah, we had the dragon thing visit our dreams. It's an odd story to bring up.
It is an odd story, but honestly, with anything gold or anything like that, I get really superstitious.
Ooh. There's a mountain about that.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Here they have a gold mine.
Oh, yeah. There was a Dutchman involved. Oddly enough, my family's Dutch. I have a feeling I have to deal with this Dutchman's crap one day. So, man, do I have more to talk about this? I mean, there's endless stories to go on about.
That's crazy. Oh.
But, like, the name caught my attention too. So I bring this up so you guys can kind of get a feel for places around you that you might want to be a little extra careful with, especially if you want to bring kids to. All right, keep an eye on them a bit more. Don't be out there late at night. Don't go out there with lots of praying and guns and lots of stuff. And guns aren't always enough, by the way. There's a start. But, and you might say, well, you're talking about all these spirit things. What's a gun? Well, you know, spiritual takes on the physical.
Y'all, you never heard of a silver bullet.
Well, I don't know if silver bullets are what you need.
Yeah, I know.
But impact gold is impact, even if something's bulletproof.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. We're talking about gold here.
Yeah, but... You were so funny. Stop looking at me like that, little lady. You stop it. You should be in bed. Bed.
Oh, what's the close color to gold that isn't gold? Brass.
Or you can just shoot it. Anyway.
I'm a little tipsy.
Mm-hmm. But anytime there's like devil in the name or superstition, as this one comes up, all this kind of stuff, right? That's people warning you of what they've dealt with in the area. Think about how this...
Rosie!
Don't you bark, dog.
Is it another bear or something?
There's all these bears. The bear necessities coming after your garbage in the night. Darn bears. So...
Rosie.
That's your first warning. If it's like Hell's Pass or Hell Hath No Fury or Tate's Hell around here, for example. Or Devil's Pool. It's not always the case, but you should look into it before you go because usually it gets called that because weird crap is going down. And they're trying to warn you with the name of what's going on. And, you know, it's one of those things you should understand on a spiritual level as well. Oh, we're gonna Alright, and we're back after that. I'm not saying we bribed her with a cookie, but, it's a day for bribing for cookies. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's more I want to bring up on this subject now, or just let this episode go and then do some more concentrated episodes on the story later. I mean, there's lots of talks of alien craft. I don't know if there's any skinwalker stories. I haven't found any of those yet.
There's a skinwalker name.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but in the Superstition Mountains specifically.
I'm not sure, but around where the Pumas was, like there's
Pima?
Pima. They also changed their name later.
It's true.
This one starts with O, and they're around Yuma. Yuma.
Yes.
Arizona, and there's some skinwalker stories in there.
I believe that.
So, I just ruined it.
It's not quite a surprise.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
So.
And again, that has a funny history because some people will think, oh, it's only a Navajo thing, or no. Well, the thing about the Navajo and the Skinwalkers is the concept that they joined with the Union Army to attack another tribe, and that tribe thus cursed them with Skinwalkers and all this other stuff. But if you're going to go for the idea of it, it's basically a type of witch, and it would seem like any native person can become one if they're evil enough. Yeah. But, that's probably another episode if we want to get into that craziness.
Yeah, if you want to do that, might as well talk about that prison around that area.
Talk about prisons. I'll talk about prisons.
His daughter was just trying to steal my wine.
I do. I know she's gonna cry over.
Is there water in her bottle?
Nope. Alright. Well, folks, we're gonna call this one a quits. I know it's a little shorter than our normal thing, but I think we got everything done the way we should. Be looking forward to the future stories as we get into the specifics. And remember, beware of what lurks at the top of the mountain. Grizzly out. Thanks for watching another episode of the Grizzly Files. New episodes come up every Saturday at 5 p.m., so make sure to come back for that. We also have a Sunday school lessons for young men called The Warrior's Path. New lessons go up every single Sunday at 9:30 in the morning in written form, and then on arcava.com, and then we'll do a live stream going over it the next day on every Monday at 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. depending on when my kids go to bed. We also have another live stream on Fridays, which is our Grizzly Gaming stream. It's a good time to hang out and talk games and all kinds of crazy crap. That one, again, will start at 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. depending on when my kids go to bed. We also have a kids book that you guys should check out. It's called David and the Three Bears. It's up on Amazon. It's like if you made a story about King David as a kid when he's attacking bears and things into a fable. Yeah, that's all. Come back for more. We're going to be making more content as we go. So like, subscribe, share. Come back for it all. Can't wait to see you there.